Hello, good evening. How are you? How are you doing? How was your day? I believe you enjoyed your day. I welcome you to Newman Networks this evening as we'll be discussing a topic, Operation A.S.K to Prosperity, three lessons you probably were not told before. So we'll be looking at that topic this evening, Operation A.S.K to Prosperity, three lessons you probably were not told before. Is that okay? Before we get started, the last time I was here on this platform, we actually discussed how to handle anxiety. And you can always check that up on my YouTube channel. Okay, you can always see that on my YouTube channel on how to handle anxiety. It's there. Is that okay? So let's get started. Operation ASK to prosperity. We'll be looking at three principles to prosperity as touching this. So let's get to it. Now, the ASK, the Operation ASK is an acronym, and the A stands for asking, the S stands for seeking, while the stands for knocking. Is that okay? We do know that everyone wants to prosper, but not um, everyone wants to follow the principle and process to prosperity. In the book of Matthew, chapter 7, verse 7 to 8, I'll be reading from the New Living Translation. Keep on asking, and you will receive what you ask for. Keep on seeking, and you will find. Keep on knocking, and the door will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives, and everyone who seeks finds, and to everyone who knocks, the door will be opened. Okay, we'll be looking at this more than what we do know before. Usually, people think of these two verses, they relate it to prayers. Of course, it has to do with prayers, there, but there is more to it than just prayers. So we'll be breaking the three aspects down this evening, and if you can engage the principles, you will definitely prosper. So Operation ASK to prosperity. So the acronym is an acronym for asking, seeking, and knocking. Okay, as I was saying previously, everyone wants to prosper, but not everyone actually wants to follow the principle and the process to prosperity. Okay, for prosperity, there are principles, and of course, there is a process to prosperity, and we must understand that. And actually, there is a difference between principle and process. The two are actually different. Okay, now, when we talk about principles, there are principles to prosperity. Principles are like codes or things that you do to get a particular result. And as many times as you do that thing, you will get the same or similar result. The force of gravity can be likened to a principle. When you throw something up, that body will definitely come down because it's a principle that gravitational force will actually act on that body. When the body is thrown up, it pulls it back to the heart. Okay, so when we talk about principles to prosperity, when you engage this principle, you will actually get the result that is expected from such a principle. While process has to do with the journey between point A to point B, and in this context, point A has to do with your starting point, while point B has to do with the result. So the process has to do with where you are starting from and the end product. That is the result in which you have in mind. And obviously, that is the process. So it's like taking a journey. For example, if you want to have a seven-star company and you are starting from nothing, so the nothing is your point A, and the seven-star company is your point B. So between that nothing to that seven-star company, it takes a process, and that is the journey between A and B. And obviously, when we talk about the process, it's linked to time. You can't talk about process without actually talking about time. That means there is a time frame in which you actually move from point A to point B. So that's timing. So and when we talk about timing again as touching process, patience has to actually come in. You know, what a journey that you needed to spend probably 6 hours, you need to be patient about the journey. You know, so for you to actually get the desired results, you know, you need process. Process has to come into play. And if we talk about process, definitely we'll be talking about time, and if we'll be talking about the time that it will take us to follow through the process, then we need to talk about patience. And in fact, we also need to talk about consistency and perseverance. So, yes, so we can now look at the three principles, okay, as touching prosperity, the operation A.S.K. So, the first principle has to do with asking. As I've read in that portion, it says, keep asking until you receive. One thing you should understand is that the asking is in the continuous tense. You don't have to ask just once. No, you need to keep asking until you actually get the results that you are looking for. So that's the first principle that you must take note of to prosperity. So first of all, keep on asking. Of course, when we talk about asking, in this context it can be prayer, so you need to keep praying, but it's actually more than that, as we are going to see shortly. Okay, prayers is actually more than just asking. It's not about asking alone, it's more than that. You know, keep asking is a principle that has worked for people that are successful in the past. A good example is Steve Jobs, the CEO of Apple. He actually asked and he got. You know, you need to learn how to ask for help. You need to keep asking. You know, when Steve Jobs was 12, he actually asked for help. He picked up his phone and called Bill Hewlett. Bill Hewlett is the one of the founder of HP company. So as at that time, when Jobs was 12, he picked up his phone and called Bill Hewlett. And what he told him was, I want to build a frequency counter. Can I get some spare part from you? And Bill actually laughed when he received the call and actually told him to come around for the spare part. So, what are we saying? We are saying that you need to learn to ask for help. When you ask, you are going to receive. That's one principle that you need to take note of as touching prosperity. In fact, when you don't ask, in a way, it means that you are proud. You should be humble enough to actually ask for help when you need it. You know, if you actually want to prosper in time, it's good you actually ask for help from other people that has gone before you. So you need to actually learn to ask for help. Very important. And don't forget that, as I read the other time, you need to keep asking until you receive what you asked for. You know, there are some times that you actually ask, but you wouldn't get a good response at that particular point in time. You know, that is when keep when you need to understand that asking is not just about a one-time activity or a one-time affair. You have to actually keep asking. You have to ask as many times as possible until you get your desired result. Don't stop asking. That's part of the principle. So that's the first principle. Ask. You know, there's this drink, Fritz-Kola. Fritz-Kola is a competitor of Coca-Cola now in Germany. Fritz-Kola was launched year 2003 by two students, that's Marco Widget and Lawrence Ample. They decided to set up their own cola company as a student as at that time. You know, Coca-Cola has been around, and Coca-Cola obviously is a giant. So they want to set up their own cola company as at that time, and they needed a recipe. They needed to know how to put things together so that they get a beverage or a drink that is of that quality or of that value as that of Coca-Cola. So they went online and searched for information and all that, but they didn't get the actual information they needed to actually set up their cola company. And guess what? They started asking. If you actually want to prosper, you need to keep asking. When you need help, don't be ashamed to ask for help. Don't be too proud to ask for help. In fact, someone said that being ashamed is a form of pride. Okay, so you need to understand that you need to keep asking when you actually needed help. These two guys, they asked for help, so they started putting call through to some people that worked in some breweries. They called up to hundreds. In fact, Marco actually said that they hit hundreds of dead end when they asked. So the more they asked, the more they didn't get a result. They were turned down, but they didn't stop at asking. So that principle is important. You need to actually keep asking until you get your desired result. Until a man actually gave them an audience and called them around, to show them the recipe to actually produce cola. I mean, the drink. And they came up with the drink that's Fritz-Kola. And as at 2019, Fritz-Kola, they sold 71 million bottles last year, while Coca-Cola sold 74 million bottles in Germany. So they are really competing with Coca-Cola. Why? Because they did not stop asking. That's one principle to prosperity. You have to learn to ask for help when you needed that help. You must not stop asking. Very, very important. So that's the first principle to prosperity. So you need to understand something this evening, that if you need help from your boss, you need to go ask him. The worst that can actually happen is for you to be turned down, but at least you have asked. So if you need help from your boss, go ask. If you need an instrument, you need a material for something, for an enterprise, and you needed to ask somebody, please go ahead and ask. If you needed someone to offer you a hand in relationship, please go ahead and ask. Don't be afraid of any personality. Ask, okay? Because there's something about this principle. When you ask, you will actually receive. And you should understand that you need to keep at this. As I've mentioned, the CEO of Apple, Steve Jobs, he actually asked the co-founder of HP company when he needed help, as at when he was 12 years old. Can you just imagine? As at that time, he was bold enough to actually ask for help, and he actually got the help. And I've also mentioned two students in Germany who are co-founder of Fritz-Kola. They actually asked for help and they prospered. So if you actually want to prosper, this principle is very important. So that's the first of the operation ASK, to prosperity. The second principle is keep on seeking. Okay, you need to keep on seeking. And when we talk about seek, it means you are looking for something. It's like you are in damn need of a thing, and you now keep on looking for that particular thing. So you got to look for information, you got to look for opportunities. You need to be diligent about this. That's why I'm saying that if you read that portion of scriptures, ask you shall receive, seek you shall find, and knock it shall be opened, and you just think that the three things that were mentioned in that verse just has to do with you locking yourself up in a room, and you continue to pray and pray and pray. I mean, you wouldn't prosper if you just embrace that form of prayers alone. You have to ask. Fine, you ask God. And again, I've mentioned that it's not asking God alone. You actually need to ask other people for help. You keep asking. Okay, now you need to seek, you need to look for opportunities. I mean, you need to get information. For instance, if you want to have a business, probably a flourishing business, apart from actually asking for help, you need to actually seek for information in the light of that business. If you actually want to prosper, probably in your marriage or whatsoever, you need to actually search, you need to seek for information, you need to seek for opportunities in that respect. Is a principle that it's awesome. I remembered that while we were in school, there was someone that as at that time in school already have some information that is not probably even open to us then, though the information was out there. But because that individual has an end result in mind, the person went all the way to search for information, to search for those opportunities. The world, thank God for the age in which we are. We have the internet there, you have books out there, you just countless books out there. You have everything it takes to actually search for a thing. If you have an end result in your mind, let me share again. For instance, if you want to work with a particular company, probably a well-known company, and you are like, come, I want to work with that company, you need to begin to search into the values of that company, how to get in the opportunities and all that. So it's not just about asking, you need to actually seek. That's another thing. And the third principle, that's keep knocking. Very, very important. You do not want to back off at an opportunity at the slightest resistance. You don't want to back off. That is what knocking has to do with. You keep knocking. There is a particular bird that we call um, woodpeckers. They peck on the back of a tree continuously. They have a target, and before you know it, they make a hole in that tree. And you will just wonder, for goodness sake, how can this small bird make this such a hole on this tree? It was because they are focused and they continue to knock. They continue to peck on that particular goal or on the back of the tree until they actually carve in a hole, at the back of the tree. So you don't have to stand down at the slightest of setback. Oh, we are on earth and there will be setbacks. You don't want to give up. I read about Steve Jobs too, when he started Apple with some guys. They fired him at a point. He was fired. How can one actually found a company and that person was fired from his own company? It happened. That's a setback for him. It was terrible for him. It was difficult for him to hold and all that. But he was able to come back. He was able to stand again. And in fact, he said later on that it was even a blessing for him to be fired from the company Al issue. He launched into several other things that Apple, he launched a company that Apple bought, and what he had in the new company was what it's now the core of Apple that we have today. So you can see, so you don't want to back out from the slightest of resistance. You don't want to do that. Okay, that is what it means to keep knocking. You are knocking at it. I need to say again that if you don't have an end result in mind, you wouldn't keep knocking, because you wouldn't have a focus, you wouldn't have a reason to actually keep knocking. So you need to actually get it settled in your mind, the end product of your life, or the end product of a particular enterprise that you are getting into. And when you have settled the end product of that enterprise, you are going into it full-fledged, and you will keep on knocking until you get that particular result. And as I've mentioned earlier, that to prosperity there is a process from point A to point B. So when you keep knocking, it helps you go through that process so that you get the end. results for that particular thing. So I've mentioned the three principles, the operation A.S.K. The first, that is ask until you receive. And this time around, it's not just about prayers and all that. You need to learn to actually ask others for help. Ask your boss at work for help. Ask that your boss for that particular thing. As I've mentioned, that Steve Jobs at 12, he asked the founder of HP company for help. He asked for spare parts to actually create a particular thing. And again, Fritz-Kola, the founder of Fritz-Kola, those two students, they actually asked for help. They met hundreds of ends, they were turned down like hundreds of times, but they kept on asking. So you need to ask. Don't be afraid of those people ahead of you. Go and ask them about it, that particular thing. Yes, before I move to the second principle, there are ways in which you can actually ask for help. I know of LinkedIn. There is the premium, what's it called, the premium plan in that platform, in which you can actually send something that looks like a mail to people that are at the top, and they'll get that and respond to you. So you can try that out. There are other means that you can reach out to people to ask for help. The second is seek. Those three principles are not just about prayers, for goodness sake. You need to seek. If you continue to pray and you do not seek for opportunities, you wouldn't prosper. You need to pray fine, then you need to actually seek. You need to seek for opportunities. You need to seek for information. You need to seek for that thing you have in your mind, so that you saddle yourself with the right information to actually do well. I remembered one of my teachers some times ago. He mentioned that he went to College of Education while he was studying, and when he was done with College of Education, he needed to go back to school. He needed to further his training in the university, and he was not aware of direct entry as at that time. So he had to take job, and he started from 100 levels, for goodness sake, and he had good results from his College of Education. What just happened was that he was not saddled with the right information. If he had been saddled with the right information, he wouldn't spend that extra year. And the last is keep knocking. You need to keep at it. You need to be persistent. You don't need to back off when it comes to getting your goals, or getting that which you have in mind come to pass. So those are the three principles that I want to share with you this evening. So I leave you to it. I celebrate you, and I see you being successful in whatsoever you lay your hands upon. And if you want to listen